Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessie. I'm a US American and I've been living abroad for over 8 years now. I've lived in Germany, Spain, and Argentina. I've had to deal with culture shock many times and in many different forms. When you move abroad, you can expect to have culture shock, and it's definitely going to happen, and it comes in waves. You arrive, you experience culture shock, you get over it, you think you're done, but then another wave of culture shock comes and you have to deal with it all over again. And honestly, I think it is a repeating pattern. The longer you stay somewhere, the smaller those waves become, but I think they're always going to be there because you're always going to be, navigating life and doing something new. Something might be shocking and different to you than how it was when you were growing up in your home country. First off, let's discuss what exactly culture shock is. I would say that culture shock is this feeling of disorientation when you're in a new environment. This can occur when you're traveling to a new country or even just to a new town or new region in your home country. You can experience culture shock anywhere when you are in an environment that is new to you. Culture shock is that adjustment to the new environment because things might be different than how you've experienced them before, and so the culture shock is just this clash of differences and you have to adapt and change to those differences. It is completely normal to experience culture shock and to feel it, so if you are struggling with some changes when moving abroad or to a new town, just know that it's okay to be experiencing this, and there are ways to help deal with it to make yourself feel better. Culture shock can lead to anxiety, confusion, homesickness, definitely, and it can even lead to depression in some cases. Not saying that this is always going to happen, but it could happen, and it's important to know this beforehand in order to prepare yourself for the possibility. But don't worry, there's a way to deal with it, and we're going to be discussing that in this video. First off, let's discuss some of the symptoms of culture shock. Know what is happening when you are experiencing it, because if you're experiencing culture shock for the first time, you might not really know what's going on and are just really feeling confused. So let's talk about what it is, what the symptoms are, so that way you'll be able to identify what you're experiencing. So as we discussed, culture shock happens when you are in a new environment to you. I'm specifically talking about when moving abroad. The first culture shock you might be experiencing is just the differences in how this new culture does things. You might be having difficulty adjusting to new customs, new ways of life, just a completely new way of doing things. These differences might shock you, it might startle you. Even if they're small differences, it can really make you feel uncomfortable, and this is a form of culture shock. These differences are going to surprise you sometimes. That's what culture shock is. The next thing I want to talk about in culture shock is just struggling to communicate. Obviously, when you're in a place that has a new language, you're going to be struggling to communicate. It can be really frustrating when you come from your home country and you know how to communicate, and all of a sudden you're reverted back to being a baby or a child and unable to do some of the basic things for yourself, and this can be so frustrating. Feel like you're not the fully independent adult that you used to be, and it's a struggle to learn the new language, a struggle to learn how to communicate, a struggle to accept that you can't communicate at that level that you used to be able to. And even if you are in a place where they speak the same language, chances are that there are different slang words or just a different way of communicating. I'm thinking about The Culture Map by Erin Meyer, where she talks about different forms of communication, whether it's through direct communication or beating around the bush and not saying exactly what you mean when you talk to someone, or even if you are in a place that speaks the same language, just the way they go about communicating could be different, and this different way of thinking can be really shocking and surprising to you. One of the main symptoms of culture shock is just this overwhelming feeling of homesickness. You might expect to be homesick and you might not, and when you experience it, it could come as a shock because maybe you're in a new place and you're really enjoying it and you're like, wait, why am I feeling homesick? Or maybe you knew you would feel homesick and you're experiencing it. Nevertheless, there are a lot of different ways to experience and different levels of homesickness. So if you are feeling homesick, you might be feeling homesick or just longing for the familiar, and it's important just to acknowledge this. Another symptom of culture shock that you might experience is just struggling to make new friends or just an overall feeling of isolation. When you move somewhere new, chances are you're not going to know anybody, or if you do know someone, it's probably not a lot of people. You're not going to have the same size of community that you had before, and it can be really hard to make new friends. Even without moving to a new country, it can be hard to make new friends as an adult, and then you add a new country on top of that, and it can be really hard to make friends. That's just something to be aware of. Finally, the last symptom I want to discuss is just this overall feeling of anxiety or depression, and this can stem from just not really knowing how things work and developing this anxiety of, okay, I don't know how things work, what am I going to do? Or you start to feel depressed because you can't do everything and function the way you used to, and this can lead to depression. If you are experiencing any of these symptoms that I just mentioned, don't worry. There are ways to help make yourself feel better and ways to address this. First off, educate yourself about the country that you are going to and try to prepare yourself beforehand as much as you can. Learn about the culture, the customs, how do they do things. If you don't know the language, try to learn some of the language before going. That'll really help make things easier on you. Learn about the history, the food, what are they eating, what does it taste like, what are the social norms. Try to find out, are there things that you definitely need to be aware of and learn beforehand, or things you shouldn't do? What are the do's and don'ts? As much as you prepare yourself, know that you will make mistakes, you will get confused, and just try to go with the flow when these things pop up. This way you'll have a better idea of what to expect, and you'll be able to avoid any cultural misunderstandings. And definitely preparation helps you, but just know that inevitably something will surprise you or a difference will pop up that you didn't prepare, and just try to go with the flow as much as you can when this does happen. So my next piece of advice is to seek out familiar routines or activities to help make you feel more grounded. So try to think about your life before you moved abroad. What were you doing back home that you can still do abroad? And this sense of familiarity in the routine will really help make you feel more connected to where you are and just give you a sense of grounding and help make yourself feel a bit more whole in this new environment. For example, if you were going to the gym a lot before you moved, find a gym in your new country, in your new town, sign up and start getting into routine of going. The familiarity of this routine will just make you feel a lot better. It'll help make you feel more connected to your own culture and give you a sense of familiarity in an unfamiliar place, and this is something that's really important. If working out is not your thing, you can find a club or a group that shares your own interests. This is a way to meet people and also feel more connected to your own culture. So next up, kind of building off of the previous idea, my next piece of advice is to just try to connect with other people as much as you can. Even if it feels difficult, it might be a bit of an effort for you, but I promise you it's worth it. So this could mean joining a language exchange group, volunteering, just reaching out to people that you meet through your daily activities. And this might not be something you normally do, but when you move abroad and don't know anyone, you might have to force yourself to make this extra step. If you are joining a group or somehow in your daily activities you meet people, force yourself to say, hey, do you want to hang out? Do you want to go for a coffee? Whatever it may be, and that'll really help you. So just in general, making connections with other people who share your interests or speak your language can help make you feel less alone. In general, making connections with people who share similar interests to you, or they speak the same language as you. Making all of these connections will just help give you a sense of familiarity, some grounding, make you feel more connected in your new place. It will help make you feel more at home and less alone. Next, just make sure to take care of yourself both physically and emotionally. When you're moving abroad and if you're experiencing culture shock, remember one of the symptoms we talked about was anxiety and depression. You might just find yourself wanting to stay at home for days on end and not do anything. Once you get sort of into this routine, this depression of not doing anything, it's really can be sometimes hard to break out of that. So really try to take care of yourself both on a physical and emotional level. This means getting enough sleep, eating well, finding healthy ways to deal with the stress of moving abroad. So exercise, meditation, journaling, all of these can be healthy and good ways to manage the stress and anxiety that you are experiencing when moving. Next, just be open to new experiences and stay positive. Just know that you're going to be learning a lot of new things, doing a lot of new experiences, and maybe it can feel overwhelming, but just continually try to be open-minded. Having a positive attitude will really get you a long way and will help you in navigating culture shock and all of the changes when moving abroad. This is a great opportunity for you to learn and to grow. if you embrace the differences that you encounter and be curious about the world around you, you can really surprise yourself at how much you learn, how much that you grow as a person. And this is a really rewarding experience and something that I find really valuable. I have grown a lot myself after moving abroad. I wasn't open to new experiences and trying to stay positive when navigating the confusion and the culture shock. You know, once you make that hurdle and finally figure things out, it feels so rewarding and you really push yourself out of your comfort zone and you grow a lot as a person. Finally, just remember that it's okay. It's okay to take breaks. It's okay to feel confused. Just give yourself time to process everything. Just don't try to force yourself to be okay or to learn everything all at once. It is a lot to take in, and just be gentle with yourself. It's natural to feel overwhelmed at times, and it's important to give yourself permission to take breaks and recharge when you need to. This could mean just a few minutes to breathe or relax. Weekend just spent recharging yourself, and this can make a big difference in how you feel. This is important to keep in mind because with so many changes, it's really easy to feel overwhelmed. So just give yourself permission to feel overwhelmed, but try to be positive and embrace those changes and navigate yourself through this feeling of confusion and overwhelm, and just be like, okay, I'm feeling a lot right now, but it's okay, and give yourself a break to recharge when you need to. It's all good, and try to enjoy the process of moving abroad as much as you can. Overall, culture shock is an extremely normal and natural response when putting yourself into a new environment when moving abroad. I think this is something that everybody experiences on different levels. Just know that with time and effort, you will overcome it, you will adjust, and hopefully you will be happy in your new place. Don't worry if you're feeling lost or confused. Just take it one day at a time, and remember that you're not alone. Try to find a new community. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Leave a comment below if you've ever experienced culture shock. What was it and how did you overcome it? Have a great day. Ciao!